Any other questions before we start? You're good? You're like, whatever.
The questions will come.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good at asking questions.
Hopefully. We try. All right. I think we're rolling. We're rolling over here. Okay, we're good. Hi, everyone. It's Carlos Villagomez. Welcome to the Hustle Behind Real Conversations. I'm here with my wife, Kim, today.
Hello.
And we have our guest today, Tye Bergeson today. Did I say that right?
Yes.
All right. Tye, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being in the podcast. We appreciate you taking the time to come talk to us.
Yeah, my pleasure.
We're excited to have you. We've known you for a little bit through CrossFit Amrock. I think that's where we met. But we wanted to learn more about you, about your story. And so I guess to begin with, if you want to just tell us first who you are, where you're from, tell us a little bit about you. That's how we like to start normally.
I grew up in Ashton, so about an hour from here.
Huh.
I'm from Ashton.
You are?
Yes.
Really?
Really?
Okay. Well, that's new.
See, you always learn new things here.
One Ashtonite to another.
Here, can I have you just pull that back towards you? Just there you go. That's perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
I wasn't sure what I was going to say.
You're good.
So I grew up in Ashton and ended up going to Los Angeles for college and stayed there.
Big change.
20
Sorry.
years.
Move to the big city.
Yeah. It was, I was in Pasadena. So
where did you go to college?
Art Center College of Design.
Okay.
And I stayed pretty much in the San Gabriel area. So, as far as living in LA, pretty easy. And stayed there. First few jobs were with ad agencies designing car brochures. So I worked for Honda's ad agency right out of school. And title right out of school was art director, which was cool. I got my degree at Art Center in graphic design and packaging. But learned a lot on that first job, how to art direct a photo shoot, how to direct printing, being very precise about what I wanted for results from the vendors that I worked with. And because of the photo shoots and the printing, I drove all over LA, got to know LA very well, which was really exciting. I tried a few things. I always wanted to do more. And so I struck out on my own at one point, and some health issues crept up and kind of put a curtail on my grand plans. And around 2012, I got a job offer from Melaleuca, and I was freelancing at the time, so I was ready to have someone else write my paycheck again. So I moved up here in February of 13. Thought maybe I'd be here 5 years.
And you're still here.
Here we are, 13 years later.
What was it like to come back from the big city to Idaho? Because everybody seems to leave and then eventually come back, right? We hear that a lot, and especially when they're young, they're like, "I'm out of here. This place blows," and then they end up coming back.
The thing that surprised me the most was the lack of change. I mean, sure, new buildings, new businesses, but general, I don't know, just how things are. And the, I guess, I don't know, I was expecting a certain other kind of growth that wasn't here. It's remained remarkably consistent in some ways.
Yeah. So what would you say those ways are, if it's okay to dig into? What do you think it hasn't changed, or that what you've seen change and why you haven't seen change?
There's a pretty strong desire to keep things the same.
Yeah.
And and that's okay. Living in LA is just the opposite extreme.
Right.
The pursuit of change is relentless. I mean, the car you drive, one building is being torn down to replace it with another one, all the time, right? It's truly a sort of keep up with the Joneses thing.
Non-stop, yeah.
Yeah.
Too much.
So here is kind of the other end of that spectrum where, there's a lot of energy spent trying not to change. So yeah, it's definitely a spectrum.
Trying to find a happy medium
Yeah.
between the two of us.
Yeah.
The two of them. Okay, perfect. And so you've been back here, you said what, since 2012?
13.
13,
Yeah.
sorry, 2013. So you came back, worked with Melaleuca. Um, well, tell us, let's see, now you do a few different things, right? You're a certified yoga instructor,
Mhm.
right? And you also do some business coaching.
Yes.
So we're gonna dabble and dive into both of those. But so when you came back here, we met you through CrossFit,
Yes.
and but also because of yoga. When did you get into CrossFit?
The last year and a half that I lived in LA, I was
Mhm.
doing CrossFit. It was fantastic. It was still relatively new.
Mm-hmm.
It was CrossFit North Pasadena was the name of the box, and very similar to how things are run at Amrock.
Okay.
So Amrock felt like home when I finally
Yeah.
ventured back. So I at the end of that year and a half, I was in the best shape of my life, and I think it's funny with the sports that I participate in, swimming, yoga, CrossFit. Then like there was always a single thing that I wanted to do. Like I wanted to learn how to rope climb. That was my big motivator going to CrossFit.
Somebody do it.
Why rope climbing?
I don't know, it just looked cool.
You're like, it's awesome.
And with swimming, I wanted to learn how to do a flip turn. So got that. And yoga, part of it is being able to do a handstand. And I mean, years in, I'm still working on it. But yeah, I like just gained a profound amount of respect for CrossFit as a whole body workout because I had hired trainers in the years before,
Mhm.
different ones, and for different amounts of time. I never came out of those episodes in the shape that I was in after a year and a half at CrossFit. So huge amount of respect there. And then the last 6 months that I lived in LA, I started going to Bikram yoga, which is hot yoga, 104 degrees, 40% humidity.
I love hot yoga.
I like
And
it.
the Bikram style is the same 26 poses done twice over the course of 90 minutes. So there's a certain amount of rigidity to it. They call it a foundational yoga, and that's not so foundational meaning it's not easy, but it is sort of the foundation of everything else. Like you learn a certain level of discipline, there's no hiding. So you get into some of the more traditional yoga, especially Western yoga, if you get into places where people are aggressively trying to get into shapes, um, you can hide there. Like you can try stuff, you can contort your body, and there might not be the strength to really support it, or something's off in your form. Um, but Bikram, like the dialogue was such that they were pushing you to get to the shape and pushing you to kind of get beyond where you were last time. And having the same 26 poses every class was a great way to check in with your body, what you had eaten, how you'd slept. And so you really got to kind of do that check in every time you went. And that's when I wasn't eating great. And so the first few classes were brutal. And once I stopped the Diet Coke and the Carl's Jr. for breakfast,
magic.
The Bikram workouts were a lot easier.
All of a sudden, it just start clicking. Right?
Nutrition matters.
But the two of them together, there was a similar amount of discipline and respect for form. And so, in my mind, they go together very well. And I was lucky to fall into that original Bikram style and have a really good box that instructed us on, how to make sure that we do the exercise properly.
Nice. Sorry, I had to make you move over a little bit because you were off frame. Sorry, I do think it was like as we go. So I was like, you're off my frame. But so okay, Bikram yoga. Now, why did you stop doing CrossFit? Because you're not doing CrossFit anymore, or are you doing it here and there?
I have a trainer at the CrossFit gym.
Okay.
Rocky. Yeah, so this part of the story is where the health issues come in. So
Okay.
somewhere.
Is that something that you're comfortable talking about?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
It's sort of long and weird, but
Hey.
yeah, like 1998, depression showed up out of the blue. Had no idea why. I was at the top of my game as far as my career goes. I was having a great time. Just came back from Hawaii. We had a photo shoot there. It was fantastic, and suddenly I am in the depths of depression. And that continued on for 10 years.
Mm.
And I tried to figure it out. Like, I went to nutritionists, I went to Western docs, I saw therapists, I was on depression medication, nothing touched it. And and it was just sort of getting to the point where my energy level was dropping. There was a whole lot of chatter in my head about what I'm capable of because I couldn't show up for myself because I didn't feel well. And but I guess the big difference for me through all of that, and right before I moved here, I had decided that I can't work because I can't think because of the brain fog. Um, I need to do something, so I hired a coach, and I'm like, if I don't have my help, then if this other stuff passes, I'm not going to be in a position to work anyway because I'll be in terrible shape. It was that coach that had me take a metabolism type test, and we figured out that there was a correlation between what I was feeling and food. So I chased that for another 16 years. And I mean, the part that's weird about the story is that it was a stuck emotion. And once that released, it resolved a great deal of what was going on in my life.
Yeah.
And
That's interesting.
yeah, the depression went away, and and there's still a lot of kind of internal dialogue stuff that we all have to kind of work through to some degree or another. But somewhere along the way, I was diagnosed with cancer. That was like November of 2017, and so this is a long roundabout story.
No, it's okay. That's what we're here for.
Surgery in February of 2018, they got me in, and they took out the kidney and like 9 lymph nodes, and the adrenal that sits on top of the kidney. And now I have a vague recollection of the surgeon saying, we're going to take out the adrenal because we don't know how to leave it in, and it may or may not affect you. And then it was never mentioned again, and I forgot about it.
Adrenals do so much.
So yeah, for
Turns out
7 or 8 years, I'm like, I guess I'm just tired because of the surgery.
Oh my gosh.
And so I couldn't with the food issues and then the cancer issues, like I couldn't sustain a workout. I tried. I came back. I did the onboarding at AMROC. I did one workout one time and it wiped me out for 2 weeks. So I had to really kind of back into it. And then the surgery, I was trying to recover, and like I tried everything. I tried just a walk and it wore me out. Like I couldn't go to the gym. I couldn't swim. I tried swimming, and then I heard that a new studio had opened up, hot studio, heated studio, and I'm like, I'm there. I signed up, and for whatever reason, like I don't fully understand the dynamics of the physicality of what yoga brings. I mean, I understand a lot, but going to a yoga class left me energized for the rest of the day instead of fatigued. So
I think it's mental, it's physical, it's rejuvenating. It just there's something about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're done with that class, there's a certain feeling to it when you're laying there after like
all
just
the
doing
hard
all
work.
that intense workout in the heat and just trying to.
Yeah.
There's a lot to go through your mind for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So once I realized that, then I was in it for good, and so yeah, I mean, there's a whole lot of intertwined stuff here, but started yoga, found out that it was a really great way. Like again, I spent my career heads down, like 100% on my career, very little outside. Not the healthiest thing to have done, but I realized that was an hour a day that I could go and not think about work.
Exactly. I think that's why a lot of us work out. It's the shut off.
The amount of difference that it makes for both of us, at least, because it's so intense. You wake up and it's like go, and so the fact that you can go and disconnect and just go and just do something completely different and just kind of lay it all out. I like that about CrossFit, right? That I just go in there and just. I don't have to think about the workout either, right?
Well,
It's
that's yoga
programmed.
too.
That's that's the thing with
It's
yoga,
all
right? You walk in there in the studio and the instructor has a routine that you're just gonna follow, but they're really gonna, test you and uh, just I don't know. It's an intense workout both ways, whether it's yoga, whether it's CrossFit, or honestly any activity that you're doing. I think it's just to be able to disconnect and then just go and put something out there. Because like for me, mountain biking is the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
Yeah.
and
Or being out in
you're
nature.
you're go out in nature, whether you're going for a walk, a hike, a run. It just makes all the difference in the world. It's
You got to have that to clear your head, whatever it is. You got to
Yeah.
find that thing that like you can kind of clear all the stuff out.
Yeah. So I guess the other, sort of bookend that story. At some point, I don't know, about a year ago,
Mhm.
I think one of my docs was like, your adrenaline, your cortisol has been consistently low for the last 2 years, like below low.
Yeah.
So he's like, try and find a medical doctor that will prescribe you a small amount of cortisol. So I'm taking 2.5 milligrams a day. It's made all the difference.
Really?
Like suddenly, this was after the realization that they had taken my adrenal gland out 8 years later.
Yeah. No, I've been kind of going down this rabbit hole as well with all the adrenals and cortisol and being in perimenopause. Like, holy cow, there are so many aspects of the body that work and intertwine together. Nutrition and everything. It is just like so hard to get feeling good sometimes when there's just that one thing off.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And trying to pinpoint exactly to what it's
Right.
causing it, right?
Right.
But so you mentioned your cortisol levels are low, so you're trying to get them higher, which I think it's the opposite of what
Usually,
most
right?
people
Yeah.
struggle with. Their cortisol levels are high because
And
of
they
stress
can't get them down.
and they can't get them down. So
The one kidney has kind of done its job,
Mhm.
and
Took over for the other.
yeah, but the one adrenal, like just constant fatigue.
Ugh.
And so with the addition of that 2.5 milligrams a day, it's not a lot, but it was the difference between being like done at 4 and working for as long as I want into
That's
the
great.
day and being able to think all day long. So that's been, kind of a game changer for me
I'm glad you're feeling
on the back
somewhat
end of the
better.
surgery. Yeah.
it makes
So-
a big difference for
and
sure.
So there's been, I mean, I've joked with Rocky that working out with him and it's sort of my rehab workout, right? Like getting my body back up to endurance levels. And so now, I like miraculously am able to walk a couple of miles 2 or 3 times a week. Sometimes in the warmer weather, I'll go 6, 7, 8 miles.
Hmm.
Swimming twice a week, work out with Rocky in a yoga class once a week. So
That's awesome.
it's a huge improvement for me over where I've been.
Where do you go swimming? That's an off question, but I'm curious. I used to be swimming a lot in Florida, and once I moved here, I stopped, and it's such a good exercise. So where do you normally go?
One day I go to Apple Athletic, and the other day I go to West Ice.
Okay, nice.
Such a good exercise.
Yeah.
Low impact.
Yeah,
High.
I think it's been good for my knees.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why we bike. Well, I bike.
Yeah.
I quit hiking because I can't take the impact of and running. So
Especially with hiking on the downhill, it seems like it's so hard on the knees. I don't know why. We both struggle with that for some reason. On hiking, whenever it's the uphill is fine, and then it's the coming back down that eventually starts.
brutal.
You're feeling the jarring on the knees. So tell us a little bit, like, what is your routine, your workout routine on a weekly basis? What is your day like?
It is, yeah. So Monday morning, I'll get up, I'll head to Apple and do 2.5 miles on the treadmill and 10 to 20 minutes in the sauna. So opportunity to meditate there.
Mhm.
And then Tuesday, typically we'll do a mile swim. Today we did 2,200 yards today. So it was a little more than a mile.
So you guys have drills planned out for swimming too?
Yeah,
Like where you
so-
show up and there's a program?
Yeah, on Tuesday mornings, and I
Uh-huh.
guess I don't know if it's Thursday night. There's one too, but yeah, the coach is there, so it's power swim class, and we'll swim according to the workout.
Oh, that's cool.
Nice. I like
Yeah.
that. I need to look into that.
Yeah, you would like that.
Yeah, it's good. And then Tuesday night, usually I work out with Rocky, and then Wednesday morning would be another walk and sauna. Thursday I usually practice yoga online, and then Friday another walk and sauna, and Saturday I teach and practicing yoga at the same time, and then Thursday morning there's the other swim.
Nice.
So gotten into that routine, which is nice, and then weather permitting, throw in a 5 to 7 mile walk on a weekend.
Yeah, we love walking too. We just
Yeah, especially once the weather's nice, it's
Oh,
just it's so nice. And
I
with the
know.
dogs, it makes it even more fun. You just every night after dinner,
They
take the
make
dogs
us
for a
go.
walk. Yeah, and they like make you go, right? Because you get into that routine, and they're
We
they're
gotta go.
so routine like. You can't let it go. I mean, once you do it for 3 days, next thing you know, they're like, "Hey, we're waiting." Like, what's going on? And you're like, "Okay, I guess we'll go." Right? But it's interesting. Um, what about discipline? With all these things that you've had to endure and change in your life, from um, being so focused on working, because it sounded like you were pretty much focused on working, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so to make that change where you're like, okay, I need to change my priorities a little bit. And I'm guilty of that. I'm a workaholic, and I'm in the process of like changing and prioritizing different things, but it's a constant battle. Like for me, it really is. So I really have to block times and say, you need to stop here, because otherwise I'll sit here forever,
Mhm.
and you won't get me out of this this office. So tell us a little bit how do you like about your discipline and how you change that. I'm curious.
Yeah, it was being all in for most of my career. I never questioned it, and that wasn't necessarily a good thing. But once the cancer diagnosis, so I was seeing a doc in Boise, and he helped discover the cancer. So gratitude to him, and I think sort of full circle. Andrea introduced me to his office,
Oh wow.
Oh,
and so by way of Andrea, I'm still here because the kidney cancer was asymptomatic. There was no indication that I had any, and I guess that's typical. You'll either have low back pain, you'll pee blood, or you won't have any symptoms. And I didn't have any symptoms.
Crazy.
wow.
So anyway, he helped facilitate the process that found it, and got through the surgery. Continued to go see him, and I don't know. I think it was maybe November of 20, and he's like, I don't know what you think you're working toward, but if you continue on the way that you're going, you're not going to be around to take advantage of whatever it is that you think you're working
Right.
for.
Yeah.
And interestingly, on that same day, I saw an acupuncturist in Boise for the first time. And I wasn't in his office for 5 minutes. And he was like, you need a different job.
Yeah. Jeez. Okay.
So
It's the job, it's the career that it's doing this to you.
yeah. And and his words were, you need to do what you love,
Mhm.
which was interesting. And the other doc was like, I'm not telling you should quit your job, but you should quit your job.
Yeah.
And and I took that, and I'm like, okay. It took a couple of other, that was sort of sitting in the back of my mind for probably another year. Took a couple of additional false diagnoses of cancer. When you're working with oncologists, everything's cancer.
Mhm.
And so I think finally it started to sink in that, hey, you know what, I need to do something different. And I was invited by one of my yoga instructors to attend a group therapy class. Um, had I not spent the previous year learning about mindfulness through yoga, I don't know that I would have said yes, because that was way outside my comfort zone.
Mhm.
And the very first class, well, the whole theme of the class was intrapersonal communication with the self. And the invitation after the very first class was to pick a positive attribute about relationships and apply it to yourself. I went home with the word, we had written down a bunch of words on the board, and I took respect. And before the week was even out, I had resigned from my job.
Wow.
Like, my subconscious figured it out before my brain did.
Yeah.
And
That's amazing.
So, that was definitely part of it. Like, I have to respect what I need and what works for me.
Do you
Was
think that a lot of people struggle with inner communication, with reading their body and their thoughts and like communicating with themselves rather
I think so.
than just with other people? And do you think is that something easy to accomplish? Is there anything that you would recommend for people to be able to achieve that? Like based on your experience, I
Yeah,
guess.
I think we all struggle with it to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
It just depends on your upbringing. It depends on the trauma and the stress in your life. Um, it depends on how your job has gone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you find yourself in jobs that don't provide feedback in a way that you feel valued, you start to question your contributions, you start to question your worth. And that was one of the first lessons I learned when I started going to yoga. And one of the instructors was like, "You are not your job." And I was like, "What?"
No way.
And so, with that perspective, things started to change. But yeah, first, the benefit of yoga is that quiet time, right? The introspection, which is different than CrossFit because there's a certain amount of intensity all the time. Push, push, push. What's next? And yoga gets you into a pose, for instance, and asks you to hold the pose. And now suddenly all sorts of previous patterns are coming up, and it's like, I can't do this. This is hard. And yoga invites you to challenge that. It's like, is it really hard or is it just a pattern? Is it just what you're used to doing, the other way? And so that's really where yoga shines, is learning to hear that internal dialogue. Like, what is it that's telling me that I can or can't do, and what's on the other side?
Yeah. No, I think yoga is so interesting. The breath, the movement, all of it is just like very healing. I think it just like you, I kind of backed off on CrossFit as well because of the intensity and trying to listen to my body a little bit more as well because I was having some health issues as well. And so I think it's super important that we like kind of step back and what does my body need? Do I need to chill out? Do I need to
And find
do
what makes
those
you feel
good?
good, and
Yeah.
when you're done with a workout or with a routine, you're feeling not just accomplished, but I think like you're in the right pattern health.
Right.
And that may be CrossFit for somebody, that may be yoga for somebody, or Pilates, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever activity I guess you decide to do, right?
Yeah,
So
I took a course from Michael Hyatt, and he used the word seasons. Like we were in a certain
Mm-hmm.
season of our life, and I'm like, I really like that
Yeah.
because it's nothing that's permanent, but it's what's right for you right now. You can
It
always
comes
come
back.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Comes
that's
back
kind of
to
my
that
approach.
thing I said to you yesterday. I said the secret to life is to keep moving.
Yeah, well, I
Like
mean,
you got to keep going.
no,
Keep moving.
I could see that because the reason we were talking about that is because some people that we know, they're getting elderly, and it's just we notice that it's harder for them to move, and but we notice that the people that are elderly and they're very active, and they're just moving, even if they're retired, they're just stay healthier.
Busy and
It's when you just kind of become more sedentary and just don't
yeah.
do a lot. It's when that your body starts kind of giving up on you, or I don't know if giving up, it's just kind of going, okay, I guess this is
What we
this
do
is it.
now.
This is what we do now, rather than you continue to ask of it. And but I guess there's that balance too, right? If you continue to ask of your body, but then you also have to give to your body and provide it with what it needs to feel, right? And so then brings us back to fuel, to nutrition, which is very important, which is something that I lack on.
We're both not
I
the
think,
best.
and I think it's just because I am blessed with a certain metabolism, but as I'm getting older, I notice differences. So I'm trying to be a lot more careful on how I eat, when I eat, what I eat, versus 15 years ago, I could pretty much eat whatever I wanted and it wouldn't make a difference, right? Or I've right through it. Where now, if I eat the wrong thing and then we go to the gym the next day and you see it, it's
Mhm.
like why does this happen, right? The same workout that I did 30 days ago, and my results are not the same, where I just felt out of breath, couldn't just have the energy. And it has to do with the fuel, which
Yeah.
is so interesting.
Yeah, there's a real cumulative effect, and it can be short term, but yeah, it's definitely something to observe, right? And that's I'm really drawn to the sequence yoga classes, which means it's the same every time for that very reason, to see, okay, my legs aren't strong today, or I'm a little bit more winded, so what happened in the last 2 or 3 days? And it's like, oh yeah, okay.
That makes sense.
You can kind of go back and pinpoint
Mm-hmm.
to, okay, what was different that made you react that way, or your body react that way,
Yeah.
that you perform differently. Okay. Now, we also do some business coaching,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that, what you do, and well, I guess we'll come up with some questions as you tell us more about what you do.
All right. Well, I mean, it was driven by, or my decision to go into coaching was driven by my career experience, right? And I don't, perhaps it's unique to creatives, but judging by all the sort of office culture memes that I see, I'd say it's not unique to creatives. But a lot of my colleagues and friends are unhappy in their jobs, and I was, relatively unhappy in mine. Like, I was trying really hard, but the alignment wasn't there. What my values were and what I wanted out of the job was not what the employer wanted out of me. So, and I think in creative, it's especially difficult because what a lot of people don't understand is creatives are really good at synthesizing information, because they have to distill down an idea to a simple graphic, right? Or how to create typographic hierarchy to facilitate the read, so that you get a 1, 2, and a 3, or a layout flow so that the idea gets across as quickly and as efficiently as possible.
And keep people engaged on
Yeah.
it, right? And the
Yeah.
idea, yeah.
And so in that way, creatives are really good at strategy. But most people don't recognize that. Most people hear the term graphic designer and it's like, I just need you to make this pretty. And it's still like, I've been out of the space for 5 years and it still sort of makes my blood boil. But it's, and it's like, I would say that it's a problem on both sides, right? Like, the creative community has not done a good job of explaining the value of what creatives do in business, right? And the value that they bring. And business hasn't tried to understand that either. Like, they just like, these job descriptions that I see are like ridiculous. They want you, they promise you the world, and they, there's strategy mentioned, and then you come in and they were like, I just need you to make this PowerPoint pretty. And so, my dissatisfaction with my job sort of drove a desire to do something differently. But also, as a creative, if the strategy isn't clear from the top, it becomes really evident really fast. And it's like, well, why are we doing this? Or who are we talking to? And sometimes decisions come down, it's like, this is what we're doing. And upon closer inspection, then the cracks start to appear. And it's like, okay, but what about this? And have you considered, how does this interact with what we've done, or where we're going? And this doesn't really fit with our sort of overall brand image. And it's really pretty common. Like, I have worked for a Fortune 500, $5 billion company, a $2 billion company, 500 million boutique agencies. Like, it's freaking the same everywhere. Like, there is a lack of clarity at the top. And I tried in my career to sort of push that boulder uphill and make change from the design department. And it was impossible, nearly impossible. So my hope with coaching was kind of twofold. Create some clarity, working with leaders, founders especially. Like, the value is not just to the creatives, it is to the founder. Like, get that clarity first, and the rest of your life is going to be so much easier. You're going to spend you're going to spend less time doing some things that otherwise are going to keep coming up every day, right? So the last couple of sort of business ventures, and the Fit Executive is the most recent one, right? That I've been working with CrossFit Amrock and Dr. Bradbury and Project Lean Nation. But we got messaging clear right at the start. Like, what is our purpose? What does the customer belief need to be? And then every time something came up, a vendor's like, we need a bio. Okay, well, the bio needs to abide by and reinforce our key message.
Go back to the core.
Mhm.
Yep, we need to build, a banner for a trade show. And it's like, okay, the language needs to be this, right? And I need to create social posts. Well, it needs to reinforce the key idea. And so, having worked in agencies or offices, marketing offices, where it's like, well, what are we going to do this quarter? Well, that should have been determined a long time ago, right? Because now making that decision really shouldn't be a whole big deal. Um, because if you get clear on that message at the top, everything kind of flows naturally. But we're very typically trying to make those decisions downstream. And, if you think about tributaries coming downstream from a source, they're not side by side. You've got different people sort of governing each of those tributaries, and they're not necessarily communicating to each other.
They're not aligned with each other all
Yeah.
the time. Yeah.
Yeah, so it really takes clarity, starting with leadership, and then that needs to be reiterated constantly. Your employees should be able to say exactly what you stand for. It reduces confusion and effort in the employees too, because without that clarity, they're going to do what they think is best, right? Because there's a void there, so they're going to fill it with their best knowledge. They're still going to try and be aligned with the company. There's nothing nefarious about what they're doing, but it might, at the end of the day, not be aligned with where the company trajectory is.
Yeah.
And and as they're going through that, they're not going to feel valued, because once it gets back upstairs, and upstairs is like, well, that's not what I need. Well, it wasn't specified, so I did my best, right? And so it without that clarity, it really hinders the entire team.
I could see how that would mess up the whole efficiency of it. So let's kind of give an example. Like me as a team lead for the real estate team. So if I don't convey the message to my agents of what our culture is, the values that we want to provide to the client, how we want to conduct ourselves in the business, and then they start working, and like you said, then I notice things that are not going the way that I wanted to. It just goes back to me. Clearly, I didn't convey the message properly at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
And so then the inefficiencies comes because then we're having meetings to go back and figure it out how we need to be doing this. And this can apply to just anything, right?
Yeah.
A restaurant,
Exactly.
a gym, regardless of the business. So what do you recommend? I mean, obviously communication is key, right?
Yeah.
On everything, but if you were to give me a few steps on how to make sure that we follow that path so we can maintain that efficiency, and so that whatever the idea of the leader or the person that it's running the business can convey to the people working with them, so you can, I guess, communicate properly, or like I'm trying to think of the right word, but to convey to your team what needs to be done and how it needs to be done, so you can be efficient and so everybody can understand.
Yeah, I think the hardest part about the process is slowing down, because you can be successful in a business.
Sorry, just making me laugh because you said slow down, and it's
And
just it's
You lost
I'm always
Carlos.
running.
Slow down. You lost Carlos. Slow down.
Sorry, go ahead. Slow down.
But yeah, you can
Noted.
be successful in a business
Yeah.
and succeed despite yourself. But what are you leaving on the table, right? What is missing in your customer relationship? What is missing in ideas that you haven't had time to explore that really are aligned with your sort of core values? But the first step is to be able to recognize that, hey, you know what, we're running fast, but we're doing a lot of duplicate effort as we run fast. That doesn't necessarily
Efficiency.
make sense. So the very first thing is coming back to understanding. You can say, what's our why? But even more specific than that, what is the single reason that your business exists that is unique to you, that solves a problem for your customer. So in my coach builder certification and story brand certification, like they don't talk about demographics. Demographics is saying that there is a fixed point in time. There is a type of person that tapping the table.
That's our guy.
There you go.
There is a fixed point in time or a certain type of person, and that's who we target. But the reality is they have a need. And people, our customers, people have needs. And we probably got into our business because we perceived a need that needed to be filled that no one else was filling. And the challenge is learning how to communicate that back so that the customer hears it and hears themselves in the story.
Mm.
And what usually doesn't happen, so that need is something that can cross all sorts of demographics. You can be a 20-year-old white male or a 50-year-old black woman, and you might have the same need. You might need your first home,
Mhm.
right? That's the need. That's not a demographic. And so if we're talking first home as something, so everything about your message is going to be targeted to helping you understand what is available within your means to get your first home. Why is it important? What's the downside of not getting your first home? Like, and all of your messaging is going to revolve around that. So story brand, which I'm certified in, uses a narrative structure. So Donald Miller, who founded Story Brand, points out every major blockbuster, stories that we all grew up with that all follow the same structure. And as humans, we understand story. Like going back thousands of years, that's how we survived. Like communicating, what we did to succeed at the hunt, right? Went back and shared that with the tribe. Like we are conditioned to understand story. And so Story Brand leans into that idea by inviting, so they take a sort of hero and guide structure. So as a business owner, we are the guide, not the hero. So typically what you'll see with a business is that they try to be the hero. We've been in business for 50 years. We've served 100,000 customers. We are the best at that. And the customer's like, that doesn't fill any need that I have. I don't care about your success.
Mm-hmm.
Can you help me put a new roof on my house?
Right.
And so it's a repositioning of hero to guide. We become the guide, and we start to tell them a story that they then hear themselves in, and then they want to lean in and learn more. And that's when you sort of proceed with your marketing message.
I like that. Putting it more on them, their needs, instead
You're
of
just really making it more about
the
the consumer,
Yeah.
the customer, rather than, like you said, so much
How great
chest
we are.
bumping
Yeah.
about how cool we are as a company or as a team or what we're providing. Well, how about we just provide you and make you feel good about it and give you a good experience, right?
Yeah.
So that when it's all said and done, as a consumer, you'll remember that experience and that's what you take with you, right? So then, next time you'll need it, who are you going to go to?
Yeah, exactly.
Not them because they've been around for 20 years or because it's because the way they made you feel when you went through it,
Yeah.
whatever that might have been, sitting down to eat a meal and how they took care of you and how great the service was and the food and everything. Or in our case, the whole experience about buying home
Mm-hmm.
or, in the gym with Amrock, how much they emphasize on culture and how you feel when you're there
Mm-hmm.
in the community and things like that, which is I'm there for many reasons, but that's one of the reasons I love it. It's just you walk in there and it's just the atmosphere is always great,
Yeah.
and so I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah, it becomes the single beat of the drum, and that doesn't mean that it's going to be repetitive either. When I go through the process with my clients, like my business is called Brandwell, and there's a couple of entendres there. Like originally thought that I wanted to guide yoga studio owners to help them learn how to communicate their different, what makes them different and why they got into business. And what I discovered in the process is that we are sort of dipping deep into the well of the business owner's knowledge, because without exception, every time that I've ever dealt with a business owner, they understand their business completely and fully.
Mm-hmm.
What they maybe aren't clear on is what their real strength is and what they need to be communicating. So we sort of dip deep into their own well of knowledge to get the answer. And in the process, you learn more about your own business. So I talked to a chocolate company, and it was really interesting because they they were looking for a singular purpose, right? And when they came to me, um, they were kind of up against the wall, sort of, because they had people telling them they need to change this and they need to change that. You need to change your name. Or they were considering rebranding. They were considering repackaging, and there was a void. That there was a narrative void. They didn't have their own story to lean on. So every time these strong voices, like their retailers, would come back to them and say, "You need to do this," they're like, "Oh, well, of course we need to do that."
And they were
Yeah.
probably listening to all those people at the same time and getting more
Too
confused,
many
right?
Yeah.
people.
So they were completely ready to jettison their brand, their packaging, start over. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. You can do that. But I think what you have is really solid. And we talked about the idea that what made them unique was taste and texture. Well, in the conversation, we discovered that they had taken standard roasting equipment and done some proprietary modifications. So now their roasting technique, they could tell that story in service of taste and texture. This is how we achieve taste and texture, unique roasting, right? Or we do bold and unique flavor profiles, taste and texture points right back up. So that's what's cool, is that in the process of discovering what your unique thing is, there's still some supporting pillars, but they're all going to drive the same point home at the end of the day. And that's what makes um, all of the communication after you find that clarity so much easier, because it's like, oh yeah, we can talk about this and we stay within this, or we can talk about that for a quarter, but everything's still pointing back upstream to the big idea.
To the core, to the one value, the one thing that you want to promote or sell, or
Yeah.
so that you're not, like you said, trying to figure it out. Okay. So when you're helping people, business owners or anything like that, you mentioned that you pretty much dig into the well of their knowledge. But when you're working with them, what do you think one of the main reasons people get kind of stuck or, just feel like they're stagnant?
We are all too close to our own business, every one of us, including those of us that are teaching this. And one of the coaches that I worked with described it as trying to put a label on your own jar from the inside of your jar.
Mm.
So you're supposed to put that label on so the world can see what's inside the jar. You're inside and can't
Get out.
See what's.
Yeah. And I mean, like when I started this business, I'm like, well, I want to help these people and those people, and I want to solve this problem and I want to solve that problem. And it was too much. And it also didn't create a point of clarity for me to continue to like keep pointing back to, right? And so a lot of the time we know that we're good at this and we know that we're comfortable at that, and we maybe had success at this other thing. But it ultimately comes down to discipline when we're doing our best, how we're operating in a zone of genius, to borrow a phrase from a book called The Big Leap. We ultimately, that's where the satisfaction in life comes from, is when we are operating in a zone of genius. Like that's what charges our batteries. And sometimes we need to let some of the other stuff go so that we can continue to succeed in the one thing. And there seems to be a market for, niche solutions every time. So, in real estate, you could talk about first time home buyers, you could talk about investment property, you could, any number of different variations, and you can become known for one of those and build an entire market. One of the early story brand coaches, I guess, um, built a 6-figure business just working with car washes.
Yeah.
So,
And there's a lot of them out there and they're doing well.
Popping up everywhere.
Seems to be the business to be in lately. But if I guess the question that I want to ask for the people that are feeling stuck, if you were to give them probably just 3 basic things to just kind of help them get going, what do you think it would be?
in business or personal life?
I guess we can go both ways. Why not? Since we're getting more specific, yeah.
Well, I think the commonality between the two again would be slowing down, right? Allowing yourself the time to be a little bit introspective, allowing the time to listen to your inner voice and what's it telling you. Um, talked to talked to someone very successful a couple of weeks ago, and he said his biggest problem was contentment. And I'm like, okay, so let's ask the question, like, what why aren't you content? And he's like, well, I don't want to look at that because that might not like the answer.
Yeah.
So he's completely okay with remaining discontent because he doesn't want to find why that is so uncomfortable. Like, what's the real reason? Like, why is contentment so scary? And but you have to stop, you have to ask yourself some questions. And so going back to business, you have to slow down a little bit, and you have to ask, where am I providing real value? So if you're stuck could mean different things. And one of my motivators was helping people find a balance in their life because I didn't have any in mind for so long. And I would love to be able to share my knowledge and help people achieve a certain level of balance, but that balance is going to come through clarity, right? So let's get the clutter out of the way up top and understand why you're really in business. And then all of your other decisions get easier. Your marketing gets easier. Suddenly you're able to hire more precisely, right? Your ops become they now have a purpose instead of just efficiency. Efficiency at doing what? Like, do we really need to be doing that thing over there? We're doing it really well, but do we really need to be doing it? And so I think, yeah, just slowing down and being able to ask yourself, um, what makes me happy? And that can apply to your personal life, that can apply to your business, because again, going back to the big leap, he maps out 4 zones. He's like, there's the zone of incompetence, which we're not good at, and we shouldn't be spending time at it. There's the zone of competence, where uh, yes, we can, but maybe someone else could do it better. The zone that he said most of us spend our time in is the zone of excellence. That's where we're comfortable, and that's where other people are comfortable with us being in. When we step into that zone of genius, which is the 4th zone, that's where we're recharging our batteries. That's where we are feeling like we're living life at the fullest. But moving into that 4th zone might make other people uncomfortable because they're used to you operating in a certain capacity. And so you have to just ask yourself what's important and what really does kind of light me up every day, what gets me out of bed.
Mm.
I like that. And I like the last part when you said when you're trying to get into that zone of excellence, you could make other people uncomfortable. Why is it that? Like that when you're trying to a lot of times achieve something else or go to a different level that they could make other people uncomfortable. Why do you think that is?
Well, we're all trying to survive,
Mhm.
right? That survival looks different for everybody. And sometimes survival means staying kind of closed off to new ideas because that's scary.
Yeah.
But in reality, if we are not growing, we are decaying. It's the law of the universe, right? Nothing sits in complete stasis. We're either advancing or we're regressing. And so if we think that we're staying safe, we're probably regressing. And so it's when we think that we are just protecting comfort, we think that that's all good, but really we're kind of sliding backwards. But yeah, I mean, why do you push yourself at CrossFit? Why do you push yourself at yoga? It's to find out what you are capable of. It's intentionally approaching discomfort, sitting with discomfort.
Yes.
And then you come out on the other side and you're like, hey,
I did it.
I did it right.
Turns out I can do this. Right?
And I can do it again, right? So people that are like really stuck, even in depression, it's like, okay, you probably haven't been depressed your whole life. So when were you happy, and what were you doing? And what were you doing? And I don't mean happy like happy go lucky, but that the absence of that sort of really dark space that you're sitting in when you can't think and you can't feel. Um, but at some point in my life, did I have happiness? Yes. So what was going on? Who was I interacting with? How was I spending my time? How was I spending my energy? What was I involved with? You know,
Get curious.
yeah,
Mhm.
going back to your successes to identify your own capacity so that you can find it again.
Mm,
And that sometimes helps us get out of a stuck space.
right.
'Cause
So with people, you mentioned that it was a point where you decided that through yoga, which in meditation, right, that you decided that like, okay, I need to quit my job and I got to do something different. Based on your personal experience, for the people that are out there, whether they have a career, whether they're in a just a regular job, but that they're just kind of content, just going with emotions and just stagnant, what what would you recommend to them? To just maybe, because we could all sit here and be like, well, you got to shake it off and you got to go out there. And people say all the time, well, you got to go out there and chase your dream. And it's really easy to say, but there may be obligations for those people, right? They may have kids, they may have parents and things that they have to take care of. So it's not as easy as saying, I'm quitting this job and I'm just going to go see what else. So, um, what would you recommend to them to just take that little step by step to maybe shift things in the right direction to where they're going to get to a place where they're going to be more satisfied with what they're doing every day versus, oh my gosh, I got to go to work again, and so that to change that a little bit.
I think finding a level of alignment and again, sort of being real with yourself, taking some time to sit and go, what am I really good at? And I worked with another coach and Brian Fretwell, he's out of Boise, and he has a program called Finding Good. And he has an assessment that helps you find um, your values and your strengths. And so I use that now. I have a couple of different resume coaching programs, and I use that as part of the process. Walk people through an interview where we discover what is important to them and what they're good at and what they've contributed toward, and sort of bring those things to the surface. And so you don't need to go through that process to do that. Like think about how you've contributed and where your strengths are and what makes you happy. And is your current job really in alignment with what makes you happy and where you want to be? And yeah, there are challenges, right? Like, and there's some safety.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, but I have several coworkers that left the comfort of the job that they were in, and they're like, yeah, I finally made the leap. And some of that comes in the form of gaslighting from the company that you're working for. Well, it's the same everywhere. It's just as bad everywhere else. And a lot of the time we believe it. We believe it for years. We might believe it for our whole career. But uh, you have to kind of begin to trust yourself and realize that you are not your job, and your success and your happiness is more important than the bottom line of the company that
For
you're working
sure.
for. And so that's one way, because we don't all have the temperament to chase entrepreneurial dreams.
Mhm.
Some people really like the challenge of going in and meeting those goals and accomplishing those things every day and leading teams and
Trying to figure something out new every day and
yeah,
having those challenges
and
versus
that's all good. But I would say, really spending some time figuring out what you love so that you can begin to communicate that upward, outward. And if you really do want to go on the entrepreneurial side, I think the one thing that I wish I had heard, there was always the thing, well, save 6 months worth of salary so you can go start your own thing. Well, that's probably not realistic for most people.
No.
I mean, with inflation outpacing pay raises, it's really hard to say, oh, well, sure, I've got an extra $500 a month that I'm going to stick away. Um, but I think what we can do, and that most of us don't do, is invest in ourselves along the way. Like take an incremental $500 certification course, right? Like don't wait until you have 100 grand sitting in the bank to say, oh, okay, I'm going to cut myself loose and
Do a little bit.
start over. Like start building yourself. And again, so that's going to be a value and a discovery process. and begin to really know yourself and know your own worth. And then when it comes time, you're going to be in a far better place to make that pivot, whether it's to another full-time job or going entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I like that.
I can testify to that because I left the hospital job and I am so much happier doing what I'm doing now. Just much more aligned with my purpose, I feel.
And it was a change. It was a challenge.
It
It was
was
totally out of your comfort zone.
scary,
Yeah.
but sometimes like you just have to make those choices and take that leap because being stuck and miserable is way worse than trying something new, I think.
Well, and then chances are, I mean, if we're being realistic, you will most likely succeed, but you
Have to
probably could
put in.
fail too, and you'll have some bumps on the road, right? And some hurdles. So, and the good thing is that you're going to learn out of those experiences, out of failing, right? But it's that relentless spirit of like, okay, if you fail, you can't just give up and be like, okay, well, it didn't work out. I'm just gonna quit. So it's just like, okay, this didn't work out. Why it didn't work out? Look into it. What do we need to do for it to work out? And try it again. And if that doesn't work, then look into something else. And then lean on other people, right? Don't try to go at it alone. I think that's the biggest thing because a lot of time people just go, no, and they're afraid to ask other people. There's so many people willing to help, whether there's a business coach, whether there's a coworker, whether there's somebody else in the industry, um, and I should say somebody in the industry with the right mentality, because you have people with a scarcity mindset that are just going to kind of sweep you away and they're going to not share any information with you. But there's other people that they know that there's plenty to go around that they'll be happy to take your phone call, text you, maybe sit down and go to coffee and talk to you about these things and share some of their knowledge, their experiences, and that you can take away from. So,
Yeah, definitely.
anyways, we want to thank you for taking the time to come and talk to us. I know you got to go, coach.
Yeah.
Here pretty soon, so we got to get you going. We always like to make sure that our guest leaves us with something that they want to, whether it's some advice, word of knowledge, that you can leave for people that are out there with it. We mainly focus around entrepreneurs, but it doesn't have to be. I mean, this could be for somebody that is going through a hard time, whether it's in personal life or business. Anything that you can advise or recommend that we can live with.
Somewhere, I don't recall which book now, but the idea that we are on this planet for a given amount of time. And there is, there's an energy inside of each of us, and there's an energy in the universe. And essentially, the idea was I guess how the author framed it was, we are energetic beings, and at the end of our life, we're going to look back and we're going to realize what we were capable of. And we're going to ask ourselves, why did I not measure up to my potential? Why was I letting all of the baggage that I collected, all of the labels that I was applying to myself, why was I letting that define me? Because I was capable of so much more.
Yeah.
So I like to think about that all the time. And, in the more immediate sense, it's been helpful to me. One of my coaches taught me to ask what else might be true. So when we're down and we're in the middle of a negative thought spiral, like what else might be true? And usually, I think the authors of the Law of Attraction talk about experience as a stick. And so if you're having a really bad time, that's one end of the stick. And the opposite spectrum is over here, and it's still the same stick, but it's an opposite experience. So what else is on the other end of that stick? And you might be somewhere, along the course of the stick, but
On your way.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, everything is not absolute.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
I do.
Thank you so much, Ty. We appreciate you taking the time. We'll
Yes.
definitely do this again.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.